Morning, Alona. How are you?
Hi. Am I early? Oh, I'm 2 minutes early. I'm like, where's everyone? It's nice to see you, Lisa, but usually there's a lot more people and I'm like, why? Okay.
It's going to be a very quiet week, Alona. It's just going to be the three of us. No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever. But I did find some poems from Rumi that I would like to share as a treat for our group.
Okay, we would love that. Do you want to do that before or after?
Whenever you want me to.
Why don't we start it from start at the beginning then? I'll have you read the poems. That would be nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it's something special for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so we'll have you do that. Thank you. And Janet, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a small meditation on love too, but I don't want to, if that's too much, I can hold off on it for sure.
No, I think you should do it. And then we'll have Alona read her poems and then we'll start our conversation. Don't assume that we don't have time for it, Janet.
Oh, I didn't read the chapter. Sorry, I'm behind.
It's about assumptions.
So that's why she said don't assume, because it's all about make no assumptions.
That was cute, Lisa. That was very cute.
I have my moments every once in a while.
You have them a lot, sweetie pie. You have them a lot. We got to hear my the baby's heartbeat, you guys.
Oh,
How
yeah.
exciting.
What's it?
Then she's got to be 3 months then.
No. It's only the size of a blueberry. And it's, how does a blueberry have a heartbeat, right? It's just so interesting. She's only 7 weeks.
Wow, that's early. I remember I had to wait a long time before I could hear it. It was 3 months.
Right, but this is 20 years later or whatever. And so
technology has evolved.
Thanks, Janet.
Mine's like 35.
Good morning, Adele. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning.
Happy Valentine's, everybody.
Thank you. And to you too.
Alona, are you okay?
Yeah, I was gonna say I had a doctor's appointment today, and so I had them do my height because I hadn't really had it done in a while, and I lost a ½ inch.
Oh, where do you think it went?
Well, I don't know where it went, but I was like, okay. So it's like, okay.
Doesn't it come out through the belly from my experience?
Ilona, I lost ½ inch too, like 8 years ago. I'm like, where did that ½ inch? And you know, when they ask you about, you know, your to put in your height and your weight and all of that, it doesn't give you the ability to do and a half. It does, like you have to. So I round down to 5'2".
Marie, doesn't it let you do 5.75?
No, it just, you have to do like 5'2" or 5'3" or whatever. It doesn't let you do the half, you know. My doctor was laughing at me the other day because I said and a half, and it's like, is that big? I said, yes. I was 5.
Well, it
When
really,
in doubt, round up.
yeah, it really is for me because now I'm 4'11", and I would fudge and say that I was 5 feet, and now I'm not at all. No way.
I had no idea you were only 5 feet tall, Ilona. You're so powerful. Oh my God.
But I'm little.
Something about small packages, right?
That's what my grandmother used to say, and she insisted always that she was 5 feet, but she really was never 5. Never. I think she was like 4'11", also at her tallest. And of course, you know, as we're aging, we're getting shorter. So yeah.
Something to do with your spine, right?
Right. The bones the spaces between the bones start to minimize, I
Do
think.
men shrink too, or just women?
No,
Yeah,
men. Men shrink too.
Okay. That makes me feel a little better because, you know, we women have to go through so much.
You know, it just doesn't seem fair that we get to shrink too.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, no, I think men, you know, someone told me too that men also go through like kind of similar to women having menstruation and menopause. They kind of do it in their own special way. So Yeah.
So they lose testosterone, Lisa, which gives them less ability to focus, where we lose estrogen and we become more focusing. So they become more emotional, sentimental, and
That's
cry. when they
wild.
do
That would
cry.
happen.
It's such a crazy thing that we just keep passing each other, you know?
That's why all the medicines, you guys, the medicines for guys, to increase the testosterone. And I think it's more readily available for men than it is for women. It's interesting. The
Well,
replacements.
let's look with everything, right?
Yeah.
Did somebody do a study one time that showed that if you were to buy pink Bic pens for women, pink pens, they were more expensive than just regular pens?
Oh, yeah.
Not for any
Mhm.
purpose at all, but just because women will spend the money to have, something feminine. I thought, makes me mad. Sorry. I'm holding back right now. I remember too, when my ex was going through what I told him was midlife crisis, and he kicked and stomped and said, it's not what it is. And I'm like, well, you have a convertible Jaguar you just bought. You're getting waxed. You're going to a tanning booth. You're getting your hair did. Hello. Maybe that's that sensitive thing, Janet. It's probably because he was shrinking.
It's hard, the aging thing is hard for everybody. And when you find out you're shrinking and your hormones are gone and you're losing your memory, I mean, it's a lot, right?
How are you, Sita? It's nice to see your face.
It's good to see everybody. Looks
Oh,
like
hi,
a whole
Sita.
crew today. Hey,
Hi.
I have been out of it, and then last week I was sick. So, and I was so sick, and I got the free test, and I was positive it was COVID because I felt like dying. But I am a drama queen, so I can go there really easily. Tested negative. I tell you, I was so disappointed. And then Friday night, all of a sudden, my head just cleared. And now
Oh,
I just have a
good.
regular stuffy nose.
Yeah, what were the symptoms, Sita? Were you nauseous or?
I had a drippy nose for 5 days, which has never happened. Usually it's a drippy nose for 1 or 2 days, and then you get the plug.
Yeah.
And so now I have a plug, but it's not so pluggy. And so I'm okay. And there was 2 nights that I did have a slight fever. I could just feel it.
Yeah.
And I was crabby. I was crabby to my own self, and I said, okay, better go to sleep.
Yeah, crabby's not good.
Yeah. And I realized I only get crabby is when I think that I've got to go and do something and really force myself, and I don't have the energy. So if I can just cruise, then I was fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the word assumption in there somewhere? I've been using assumption a lot today. I'm like, don't assume everybody's going to be there. Don't assume that. I'm trying my hardest to, it's going to be chapter by chapter for me, Marie.
That's the way to take it, and little morsels.
Little increments, yeah. Did everybody watch the Super Bowl yesterday? I don't know about you, but that halftime show, oh,
We watched.
my God, they're all our age. All of those people that are performing up there are our age. Mary J. Blige, Dr. Dre, Snoop, they're all our age.
They're your age, Lisa.
Lisa, I think I'm the only one that didn't care for it, because I don't care for the music.
Oh,
I'm a Barry Manilow person, so I was like, what? I was like, what is this? And I thought I like J-Lo or Lady Gaga or
Yeah.
yeah.
and I was looking like, what is this? I know Aaron was upset with me. Aaron's like, where have you been? I said, I don't know. I like Barry Manilow.
It was really beautiful. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was really beautiful to see different body images and styles and size. they're beautiful dancers in every shape and form, as opposed to, my growing up and thinking I had to be a rockette. And when I got too tall, I thought life was over, So it's
Yeah.
really beautiful
Oh,
to see such diversity.
I was at the restaurant yesterday and we hired a new cook and she's a woman of color. And so I told her, come on out. She'd been dying. She wanted to see this halftime more than anything. And I said, all right, shut the kitchen down, come out, let's watch the halftime. She was elevated. I mean, she was singing along and her energy was so immense. I was like, okay, this is a good place to be with her loving this. So I loved it. Now, I didn't know the words. She knew all the words, but I knew the music. So I thought it was pretty cool. So different than what we've had in the past.
And if we're going to talk about bodies, how about The Rock, you guys? I mean, when he came on The Rock, and I Googled him, he's 49. So he's almost 50, right? He's almost in the eligible age, right? But he was amazing. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But and the commercials, I enjoyed the commercials so much. I went back and watched them all again last night when I got home. They were just so clever. Just so clever. But now, if anyone here knows anything about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, we should probably talk. Wow, every ad was cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. And I don't even know what it is.
Got to get on the website Robinhood and learn about it.
be careful. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Some friends I know who know about it, they were like, China isn't accepting it. All these other countries in the world, they're just not accepting it. So it won't be a global, so I mean, be careful is right. Be careful.
Yeah, well, and it's something like, $100 million for a half a coin. So, it's not going to be any time that I'm investing. So, but anyway, it's just one of those things as you get older, technology and everything starts to move past us. And now this whole cryptocurrency thing, it's like, okay, maybe forget it.
My local YMCA takes crypto. Is that funny or what?
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
But Jen, is that the one here in Newport Beach?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. I don't get it. So today, ladies, first of all, happy Valentine's. So nice to see everybody. My Valentines. So I'm sending hugs and kisses to all of you today. Candy, if I could. We're going to start off with a meditation from Janet today. And then after that, Alona's going to read us a few little poems that are relative to today. And then we'll start our conversation on assumptions. Wow, it's a big morning. So Marilyn, do you want to lead us in our protection before we do our meditation?
Absolutely. So sit back, relax, take a deep breath. Oh, there are birdies singing. If there are any birdies or whatever sounds around you, tune in. We clothe ourselves in a robe of light composed of the love, the power, and the wisdom of divine consciousness. We wear it not only for our own protection, but also so that those who see it or come in contact with it will be drawn to God and healed. Please let your light surround us. Please let your light permeate us, emanate from us, and reflect back to you, divine consciousness, and to each other with the realization that we are creation and divine consciousness. And there we go.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, as we continue with our eyes closed, thank you, Marilyn. That was beautiful. Taking a breath in, a breath on this Valentine's Day, 2022. And today we're going to explore love. So as you think of that word, love, love goes beyond romantic love or devotion to a person or a thing. Love is an energetic force. So really breathe in the idea, the energy of love. And as you breathe that in, imagine that it fills your whole body. That feeling of love goes to every cell from your head, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, down through every organ in your body, every cell in your body, and especially noticing your heart, the immense hearts here on this call of people who love and care and share love so easily. And as we're thinking of love, we'll go to that brain or mind to fill it with love.
I'm on a Zoom.
First towards itself,
Okay.
and then towards the thoughts that we think. Imagine that every thought that comes into your being about yourself could be a loving thought of appreciation to our bodies, a loving thought of appreciation to our hearts and souls. And that with that loving mind, spirit, we realize all the ancestors that had to feel enough love to keep generations before us alive, which permitted us to come forward and be on this planet during these most interesting times. So extending love towards our ancestors, love and appreciation for all that they went through to allow us to be here today. And accepting the miracle of each one of us, the miracle of life, the miracle of love. And with that idea that love will continue in our hearts and in our minds and in our souls, we protect ourselves and allow only the positive thoughts to come forward towards ourselves. And anything that tries to creep in will have a protective veil that can allow us to make improvements or changes, but not to hurt ourselves with our thoughts or even our beliefs or judgments towards ourselves. And breathing that in to expand beyond ourselves, to realize we are all one on this planet. So then, as Marilyn said, we can hear the birds and love that they sing to us. We can see our pets and feel their unconditional love. We see nature and the trees and the flowers and the animals and the insects and how they provide love just by being on this planet with the oxygen they give us and the joy and the beauty they give us. So what if we could see everything out of the eyes of love? Every part of nature, every part of ourselves, and perhaps the most difficult is everybody on the planet, seeing them with eyes of love. Eyes of love might say that their behaviors hurt us and we want to protect ourselves. But eyes of love also mean that we don't know what they've been through. And so to make a judgment or assumptions or to take things personally means we're unaware of where they're coming from. And if we're going to make this planet all one out of love, it starts with accepting ourselves and following the 4 agreements of not taking things personally or making assumptions, but also not speaking negatively towards ourselves or others. And the last part of always doing our best, absolutely believing and knowing that each step of our pathway, we have been doing our best. And the proof is that we're here today joining hands and forces with women across the country to be that light, to be that love, to be that force that can heal or guide or protect. Perhaps you can feel the angels and spiritual guides surrounding you in this aura of love. And the gratitude that comes from our hearts and souls for being on this journey. So today and all days, using the force of love. Love may be God, may be the universe, may be that little bird next to us. Breathing that in, feeling our hearts very full, very connected to one another, very able to give and to receive. And perhaps allowing any symbolic force of love to be in our life in whatever form that might be. Making that an intention. Allowing and receiving love. And then paying attention again to our breath, to all the parts of our body, our soul, our mind. Feeling surrounded with a protective, energetic force. When you're ready, coming back and taking a deep breath, coming back to your body here, connecting with one another, and opening your eyes when you're ready. Being ready for Ilona's poems and the sharing that we'll have.
These are 3 poems about love by the Sufi master Rumi. All the precious words. All the precious words you and I have exchanged have found their way into the heart of the universe. One day they'll pour on us like whispering rain, helping us arise from our roots again. I'll leap 100 stages. I'll leap 100 stages beyond any wisdom. I'll break free from all known good and bad. I have so much goodness hidden inside. I'll finally fall in love with no one but me. Believe me, I wasn't always like this, lacking common sense or looking insane. Like you, I used to be clever in my days. Never like this, totally enraptured, totally gone. Like sharpshooters, I used to be a hunter of hearts. Not like today, with my own heart drowning in its blood. Non-stop asking and searching for answers. That was then. But now, so deeply enchanted, so deeply enthralled, always pushing to be ahead and above, since I was not yet hunted down by this ever increasing love. Happy Valentine's Day, ladies.
Thank you, Alona. Those were beautiful. Can you tell me again who those were from?
Room.
Rumi.
Rumi, okay. That's beautiful. Very apropos. Thank you for sharing. And thanks, Janet, too, for our love meditation. And Marilyn for keeping us safe. And Marie, can we talk about assumptions?
Yes.
I assumed it was going to be a longer chapter, but it was pretty short. So
Well, I think it's because the second agreement, I mean, the second agreement, it really, it goes hand in hand with this one. Because the moment you take something personal, you begin to create the story, right? The assumption. So
Yeah.
those two go hand in hand, kind of thing. But I have to say that the agreement of not making assumptions is really the action piece. Because the moment you take on whatever that is personal, the action piece is to stop yourself from making the assumption, which becomes a practice. And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And I mean, we're human. I don't think we'll be entirely free, but it'll definitely help us achieve a sense of freedom, because then you're not concocting these stories anymore. And gossip is the assumption, because that's what we're speaking about to others, is the story that we create. And so we go on and tell the story, even though it's all made up here. So that's really what the assumption is about, is that gossip and really stopping it. I was re-listening to the chapter, and it took me back to my earlier relationships, like my very first boyfriend, who wasn't the perfect boyfriend, but I thought that I could change him. That was the story I created in my head. I made the assumption that he would be amazing, and after I cleaned him up and everything, it would be perfect, right? And that's that teenager thinking that everything would be great, but I assumed that. And then the letdown came very quickly. I thought, what? He's not going to change. He's not going to do what I want him to do. And it's interesting because it also took me to my current situation. And one of the things that he was talking about in the book was that the moment you want to begin to change something about someone, then you don't love them for who they are.
right.
Because you're wanting to change them. And I was really thinking about that. I thought, there are aspects in my personal life, in my relationship with my husband, that fundamentally changed. And no, I didn't stop loving him, but I couldn't love him in the way he needed to be loved. And then I needed to be loved, because we both had fundamentally changed. And it was interesting to me that I couldn't change that as much as I in my mind initially remember saying, if he would just change this, then everything would be great. And then the letdown was pretty harsh, after that. So to me, it's like, if you work at not making the assumption, then you're not living in that struggle, which is really what the first agreement is embracing. That's why the first agreement is all of them, right? All of these agreements stem out of the first one. Is the importance of the assumption is that really that is where the struggle is the story that we create once we take on something. And then again, the practice is to keep it real. And that's the part that we don't like to hear. This is why we change the story, because we don't like the reality that comes before us. So we begin to change it so it makes us feel better. And part of being impeccable with your word is to be brutally honest with yourself. And I say from a kind, loving place, not from a judgmental place, but from a kind, loving place, that this is the truth, this is the reality, and I need to embrace it rather than create the story.
The daydreaming probably isn't a good thing.
Why?
Well, if you sit there and think, I don't know, I mean, I enjoy daydreaming, but I sit there, I direct that narrative, right? I don't know, I might be sitting there thinking of something, but I would assume that it would go this way because that's the way I want it to go. Do you know what I mean? Am I saying that right? But yeah, I mean, A daydreaming, if I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I can't go back to sleep, the first thing I do is in my mind start decorating a room. You know,
That's so
and
sweet.
I'll sit there and I'll start thinking where the bed should go and what should I do for the wallpaper. But so that's a different kind of daydreaming than if I'm looking at somebody like a person, like a love interest, say, you know, and I start daydreaming and assuming what our relationship will be like. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Wouldn't it be like the law of attraction where you're trying to create and bring something positive into your life? How does anybody make a painting or write a book without that daydreaming? I don't know if it's called daydreaming,
Yeah.
creating.
Dreaming.
Yeah, that's a positive force.
It's a tool.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's a tool for
Yeah.
creativity.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay, right, Marie?
Yeah. That kind of daydreaming, yes, that's a healthy way of daydreaming. The daydreaming is the other one where you envision, you know, what the relationship should be like instead of seeing it for the reality that it is.
yeah.
That's different.
Yes, Alona.
I think one of the things that came out of the chapter for me big time is people don't know how to clearly communicate, and the word safety is prime to understanding the assumption, because you need an answer to something because you can't tolerate the unknowing or the uncertainty or the unfolding, and people are terrified of confrontation by clear communication, and we're definitely not taught that in school, that's for sure. And I don't even think we're taught that in religious school of any kind in terms of real clear honest communication. And I think if we would do, you know, relationship classes in high school with clear communication taught at least one semester before they graduate, we'd probably be a healthier society, at least in the United States.
Ilona, that also takes us back to the power of the word.
Mhm.
You know, that's why communication is essential, because of the power of the word. The word has the ability to manifest. So part of not making the assumption is not to create the story, because then you start manifesting, fabricating, and eventually you lose sense of what the true reality is, and you're stuck in this whirlwind of this other reality that was created. So really it takes us back to, yes, clear, transparent communication, willingness to ask for clarification. Because people just assume and rather not ask and go with the assumption.
Yeah.
And that's where miscommunication occurs.
And then that's the misinterpretation and misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It's not just the miscommunication, it's
Mhm.
all the repercussions that happen as a result of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Where'd you go, Sophia? Your hands. She raised her hand. Look at that. That's good communication on your part. I like
You know, it's sort of not exactly on point, but sort of related to what Ilona's saying about being clear in our relationships and communicating directly, and which was a really great idea about the high school thing, Ilona. But yesterday I caught the tail end of an interview with a research scientist who wrote a book called The Liking Gap. And the part that I tuned into focused on the assumptions that people make about what others think of them. And these are things that could be clearly addressed. I mean, she said within what she was saying, then if people actually said, "Do you like me?" you know, and she used the example of herself having moved as into this new community as a professor at a college, knowing nobody. And she had an introduction to another young professor, and they met, and she thought, "Oh, wow, we really got along so well. This is great. You know, I have a friend. I'm really excited." She heard nothing from this woman. And so the person, finally, she called the person who'd made the introduction. She assumed this woman hated her. You know, I talked too much. I shouldn't have said what I said, all those things. And the mutual friend said to her, "Oh, I got a call from the other woman. And she said the same thing. Maybe she doesn't like me. I talk too much. So apparently people assume so much in all different aspects and all different ages about what other people think. And based on that, they take action without having had that mutual friend. The researcher said she would never have pursued the friendship with the new friend. So, multiply that across our lives, and oh my God.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I work with people that suffer from different forms of anxiety. And I've come to, this is why I also prescribe the book all the time. I've come to understand that people, aside, from the physiological component and, genetic component of it, people who really struggle with this is because of the assumptions. It's that very thing that you're talking about, that they're making the assumption somebody's not going to like me, and they worry so much about all of these things that are all up in the mind and not necessarily real. So that's to me, people who struggle with, above average level of anxiety is definitely the struggle, because they're making assumptions of things that are really not happening or will not happen. And so that keeps them in that state, kind of thing. So yes, I think it's accurate what you're saying.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Lisa, what I found really interesting is on 64, he does present these as problems, making assumptions, taking things personally. And then he sort of gives you the solution, because we are afraid to ask for clarification. What Marie, you just said, it's such wonderful that he just tells you the solution. Just stop and think about it. And it really meant a lot to me to get that.
Yeah. And that's the action piece. That's the perpetual action piece, in terms of keeping yourself from engaging in that pattern of behavior, is to first, recognize what this is, and then be transparent. It doesn't matter what the world thinks. What matters is that you're wanting clarification for yourself, and asking is not being afraid to ask, is the action.
Yeah, I think fear's in there, right, Marie? There's fear.
Yes, fear. Well, the fear of judgment. That's what the anxiety piece
goes on to say that.
Yeah, it's the fear of judgment, which, we've talked about this before, that the two archetypes that all of us pretty much carry all the time is the judge and the victim, because the judge is constantly at us. And part of the action is to notice that judge and say, I'm not engaging with this. I'm redirecting how I'm going to approach this. But that doesn't happen until you begin to really notice it, and then you start responding to that. Because people are like, well, how do you do it? How do you do it? Sometimes it's just noticing it first. And then as you begin to catch yourself more and more, then you'll be going into the action of changing that narrative.
Right.
First, you have to start noticing it within yourself. It begins there.
Yeah. I will say, I've already noticed it, with me. Sometimes I say something in my head that's kind of negative, like trying to put on some pants that don't fit right. And boy, I tear myself apart. And then I stop and say, stop that, reject that, throw that out of your head, start over again. And, but, it really, in order for this to work, you have to be really conscious of everything you do and say. I guess, well, yeah, impeccable with your word. But you really have to. It's not easy. It's I guess it's retraining, right?
It is, because think about it, from even when we were busy being, domesticated, that's how we were taught. It's a programming that is so ingrained in us that you literally have to go in and begin to change all of that. You have to decode it.
So sometimes I actually can feel myself unhooking. Like I feel myself unhooking from the negative thought towards myself, or unhooking from making an assumption. Like I can feel the unhooking. And I don't know. Yeah, Ilona's saying yes. I don't know if I learned that from you or from just being in this group, but it was like, I don't want to be hooked by my family stuff or my childhood or my past. I just want to be free, right? And
Janet, like I have all these feelings, and I have the negative feelings, and I can't just tell myself, don't care, don't have the negative feelings. But when I looked at that asking, I think that meant a lot to me, because that's could be my solution. And I'm terrified to ask people. So, I mean, something about myself or something that I'm interested in, I can analyze real well. Other people, but myself, that was, I have those feelings, but I can go ahead and try to clarify things to see if they're right or not. Because some people are going to hate your guts. Some people are going to not like you. Some people are going to think you're not whatever.
Yeah.
And they're
No,
going to judge you. And, but definitely start with yourself, like Marie said, inside yourself. But then, ask for others.
Yep.
What
And
they
I want to add another piece, because one of the things, asking really is that fear of being judged or not being liked. And I think that one thing I always tell myself, one, it's none of my business what she or he thinks of me. And then two is that I have a right to ask, and the person has a right to not answer, right? But it's not about you if they choose not to answer.
right. It's their issue.
I have every right to ask and seek those questions regardless of what everybody else thinks, because that's how we learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one thing that you fear the most is what you need to do. I mean, for me, I used to be afraid of public speaking. And the way I solved it was I just have to throw myself out there, even though I'm scared as hell. And the reason why I was scared is because I turned really red, and I didn't want everybody to see how red I turned. And then I realized, like, you know what, this is inevitable. I'm going to have to public speak at some point in my life, and I can't get away from it. So I would just volunteer. I would be the first one. And then everybody else caught on that was the way to get past it. Right. And I've learned even to wing it. This weekend, I had to do speak for my friend's mom had passed away, and we've been friends since high school. And I forgot my glasses. I created this whole thing that I was going to talk about. And I got there and I forgot my glasses, and I couldn't read because the letters were little. I looked at that and I thought they were calling my name, and oh my God, I forgot my glasses. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to have to wing it. So I went out to the podium, and I just, I knew pretty much in my mind what I needed to say, and it ended up being amazing. People were like, so it was funny because everyone else I had talked were crying and crying, and mine was actually funny. They were laughing at the things, and it all because I forgot my glasses. I had to improvise, and that little bit of anxiety helped me get through it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's an evolution. I wouldn't have gotten there if I hadn't thrown myself before at just doing it, facing the fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Marilyn, I saw that you were going to say something earlier. And if you want to now, you're on mute.
I think every single word is right on it. And there's another aspect, I think, for especially people like us, we tend to be, hopefully, we're striving towards consciousness. And I want to just add to the mix soul memory, because sometimes we can watch somebody's behavior and yet remember them so well before the damage done in this lifetime. And of course, we want to have boundaries, and we want everyone to be appropriate, and we want, and hold the space for them to be the highest good. But I think sometimes, and it's interesting because I found that in channeling as well, sometimes people would be holding on or trying to figure something out when they, it wasn't just like, the abused person syndrome, or it wasn't just, there were so many aspects to what's happening now, and making assumptions are just, but there's this fine line, at least I've found, where there's a soul memory of maybe remembering who someone is or who we are before we catch up or they catch up with themselves. Do you know what I don't know how clear I'm being. Again, I'm more clear when I channel, not when I'm me. But I've gotten into trouble with the same thing for too many years, people who are inappropriate holding the space because I didn't believe they were what they were showing me. I assumed they were better people than that. And I have to assume now that somewhere their soul, yes, that's true, but it ain't happening in this life, at least not now. So, okay, make a boundary. I get that. But I think with people that we're closest with, intimates, dear friends, family, it's interesting, the forgiving, the making space, but how much of it is where we remember aspects and we're watching somebody like fight their way through a paper bag, but we remember who they are before we do, and they do it with us. And I think that's part of the gifts we give each other. So assumptions, I think every word is right on it. And yet there's this little twist to just make it a little more interesting if we look at it from the soul's perspective in terms of infinite time, I guess. That makes sense?
Thank
Yeah,
you,
could it
Marilyn.
be
Thank you,
not-
thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, could it be that we just don't believe the lies, like he says in the book? Like the lies cloud things about ourselves, about others, and we go, no, I'm not going to believe those lies.
No, I'm interesting when you first said it, I thought, is it a lie that I hold that person in a higher place? But I think you're saying the opposite. Am I going to believe the lies they're presenting because they were taught that and it's not their soul's reality? So that's, especially as a therapist, holding that space, and yet having the boundary to be appropriate in your own space. I mean, this has been a lifelong thing, learning, but there's a lot. And boy, this book is so powerful and it really helps. And then you bring in the other aspect, and that book, you can apply it to the soul relationships beyond time as well.
Yes. Alona?
So Marilyn, I would say that, especially for all of us in this healing realm, we hold the vision of an individual fulfilling themselves. We hold that vision throughout time and space and all dimensions. And it's not necessarily going to be realized in front of us, but we hold that vision, and we hold that vision for our clients. We hold those vision for those we love, and our soul holds that vision for us until we can consciously connect to it. So from that, so from me, the words that I use for that is you hold that vision, and you can connect to that vision at any point in time. You can connect to a monadic expression at any point in time. But the key for me around the assumptions are, you still have to ask all the questions that you would ask on earth to all these other beings, and you still have to ask for clarification. You still have to communicate very well. You still have to face your fears. And then once you do that, then you have the options to join in that fulfillment journey more collectively as an entire soul family or a whole monadic unit. So the same things apply, Marilyn, to all of those other aspects as they do here on earth. That's
Absolutely.
as above, so below, and all those kinds of things. And the other part of it is, most times when people are having memory recall, most times it's because things went really badly and they need to be fixed. Every once in a while, you'll get a really nice, I'm here for you, came in to support you, we had a really great life, right? Every once in a while, you have something like that, but that is far and few between. Most of the time, the connectivity is with soul memories and experiences that need to be continually healed.
It's so interesting. It's right on it. It's so funny because this little powerful book, everything you're saying and everything about the soul memory and figuring that out in terms of assumption comes right back down to, don't take it personally.
I can illustrate what Marilyn is saying. I can illustrate it in real time, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Marilyn did a channeling for me and my cousins. I have two cousins that I grew up with. And they're in Peru, and they came to the States, and we had a conversation around the table. And Marilyn came to channel for them. And I've had this male cousin since I was 10. We call people cousin when you're growing up, when your parents are very close. And everyone was always like, what is with it with you two? I mean, you're friends, but you're really different and you see the world differently. But the cousinness has gone on and on and on and on and on. And I'm concerned about him. He's drinking too much and he's never been able to have a relationship, a long-term relationship, and on and on and on. Marilyn says to me, well, in a past life, you saved his life. Boom, that just clarified the whole thing for me. So whatever form I took in a past life, whatever form he took in a past life, there's a connection there that's just too strong to break with silliness in this world. Does that make sense? I mean, and it was, thank you, Marilyn, you brought me to consciousness. So I think that is the thing, becoming aware of what could possibly be behind it after asking all the questions. And it could be positive. I mean, I think that was positive. I mean, it may have been horrible that he was being killed, right? But I saved his life, so that's positive.
Okay, so I just need to go back a little bit and ask Marilyn, okay, so what Mary Beth is putting out there in layman's terms for me to understand is what we've been talking about in the first chapter about our, the intro. Sorry, guys, working on some words here. Where it's the way we were raised. It's the way we were taught, right? It's this directive that we received prior to us through our ancestors and everything. So what you just shared, Mary Beth, is an example of that, right? No?
No, it's an example of the undoing of that, I think. It's an example of believing that there's something beyond. And what Ilona was saying, you're holding the space for that person, even though you're like, okay, why? Right? But I have no desire to, take him out of my life. But I often question, I mean, but now I understand there's a greater, right? There's a great, it's bigger than us. So
Right.
I confused you more than I've helped you. I'm sorry.
No,
So relationships don't die, they change.
Mhm.
And so I say love never dies and love never ends and relationships never die. They just morph. They just shift, they just change, and they change over incarnations. And you've played different roles with the people in your life for many, in many ways. My brother has been my father, my brother has been my brother, my brother has been my uncle. We've done a lot of different lives together in different ways. My niece was my daughter. Her two children were children of mine, a couple lifetimes ago. I mean, so when you really start to delve into this and become conscious, you recognize that your relationships are far greater than you have ever dreamed of. Part of it, though, is you're not conscious of it and you don't know what it's about or why you're really working with it. But the reality is, being impeccable with your word, it matters, not just in this lifetime. It matters to change the lifetimes that you've led and the lifetimes that you will lead, because what you say now affects every experience of yourself throughout time and history. And it gets played out with individuals who aren't just part of your family group, but that domesticated process of those thoughts, those beliefs, those feelings, they get played out so dramatically that unless you really understand what they are, they just keep coming at you from different directions in different bodies till you get it. So I'm going to share with you, this one, Lisa, is really far out there, but I'm going to share it with you.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to share it with you. And it's a good one for Valentine's Day, but it also tells you some things out there that are possible to happen that are just the way that it goes. So one of my jobs in the larger world was with a partner to actually establish coordinates of consciousness for enlightened relationships on developing worlds. So there were 4,000 worlds that me and my partner our job, our assignment was to move into these civilizations on these worlds at a specific point in their development and place codes of consciousness into the collective experience of the budding civilization so that they would begin to really realize masculine, feminine, harmony, unification, understanding, and enlightened relationship dynamic. Okay. So this went on for, 4,000 worlds, which goes way beyond any human time. Part of my job in this incarnation was to do the same thing and to download those codes into the crystal beds of Arkansas, then to be transferred into the crystal beds of Brazil, and then to be sent around the world. And I did that in 2011 with a male partner who was just a physical 3D body, right? So here I am. This is 4001. I'm back here. I'm doing this. I'm doing this with an invisible being who has been my partner and comes into the body of this really nice guy who was pretty much a shell of a man, so he could be used. So, all good things happened for him because of this, right? But when this happens, I remember being in Mount Ida, Arkansas, and doing all of this massive work. And at one point, going through this energetic marriage ceremony, I'm going, what is going on here? Why is this happening? But I followed through all of the codes for enlightened relationship, and they went from man, woman, man, family, government, civilization. There was a larger process unfolding, and all those codes got put in there. So when we came back, he wasn't just, the 3D guy. He was this other being. And I'm in this relationship with this other being, not the 3D guy. So the 3D guy hangs around long enough for all of the work to be concretized into a program, into a series of classes, into a weekend retreat, all that kind of stuff. And then he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Which is great, because as a 3D guy, he didn't need to do that anymore. However, my partner did not want to break that link with me. So when that guy said, I don't want to do this anymore, my invisible partner got that guy into a motorcycle accident. Yeah. And he survived, and I ended up having to take care of him after this is wanting to be over. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? But after that, he was able to really move on, and his life has turned out wonderfully because of the service that he did. So the 3D guy moves on. And I still have this other being hanging around, and I'm like, you're not here, you're not real. We took care of the things that went wrong in some of those worlds. All of that work was finished. And then I was having a really hard time because the level of love and relationship that I had experienced through 4,000 worlds and the deep connectivity that was reignited as we did the same job here put me in a tailspin, because this is far beyond anything a third dimensional woman is ever going to experience in love. Just doesn't even come close to Match.com. Just not sex, nothing, right? So I'm having a hard time. I had some I had chest pain. I had some real, it physically manifested in me, and a group of my friends came together and really, worked significantly with me to release the anger, to release the grief, to release the loss. And so, at the last part of that rough heart period, the guy shows up in one of my big healing sessions. And he says, don't save me. I'm not worth it. And the truth is, he wasn't. In those 4,000 worlds, the last 3 were a big problem. He had really gone to the dark side, And I had been sent away because of what had gone wrong between the two of us. So in that period of time after Arkansas till when this thing happens, I actually worked with the stand-in guy to heal all those worlds. There were 3 of them that were affected by that demise. So I fixed it, right? Fixed it, understood it. But at the very end, right, when he's standing there saying to me, I'm not worth it, I finally say, you know what? You're right. You're not. And he says to me, you are the finest and most beautiful expression of femininity I have ever experienced. You have been and were the only great love of my existence. And he said, and that's why I'm here. But he says, don't save me. And so I didn't. And I recognized that things had gone so bad with him that he was at the end. And he said to me, I was given a dispensation to come to you, to give you this opportunity to free yourself. And after this, I exist no more. But I asked for this opportunity to be the last honorable thing I do before I cease to exist. And in that moment, that's when he said to me, I didn't kill the guy, but I took him out of commission. He admitted, I made that accident happen. I did all those things. And I was like, that was really wrong, or really, really, really wrong, really wrong. And so I looked at him and I said, you know what? I forgive you for everything. And I'm going to look in your eye as they call it a vaporization process, where you simply return back to an electronic matter. You become electrons. And at that point, all memory is lost of any of your existence, but you go back into the pool of electronic energy to be reutilized. But in the way I'm describing this is worse than death, because there's no longer any of you that exists anywhere. You have been erased from existence. You got to be really, really, you got to do really, really bad things to get to this. But this is a process that exists in this instance. So I sat up off the table. My friends were around me. I looked him in the eye and I loved him into electronic vaporization. And it was done. There's nobody to grieve because he no longer exists. It's over. That's how you end it, Mary Beth. That's how it gets done.
I don't want to end it.
Well, you know what I mean, but you know what I mean, in terms of something like that, that's how it ends, right? Otherwise, love just continues and it goes on throughout history. But in this instance, this was a powerful experience. And for me, I had to accept there's no more saving men of any kind, of any species throughout any time, space, or dimension. They take care of themselves and I take care of me, and I create this structure, this space for enlightenment that allows relationship to evolve to its highest possible level. And so it's been, so after that, my heart healed. It healed. I would love companionship on the earth, but recognizing, my one close friend, who's a man, I told him the story and he said to me, how romantic. He comes to you knowing that he's dying and he gives you everything so that you could go on. He was like, oh my God. It was interesting to hear that from a man's perspective. See how a man really saw that. So I'm just saying, the assumptions, the judgments, the victimization, you got to really clear them out inside you so that no matter what memory or what experience gets triggered throughout time or space, you can hold your own. And that's love. That being, he totally loved me. That's love beyond any kind of love. That's just, that's it. Throughout time and space to be erased.
Sita, you're on mute, so you have to unmute yourself. But Okay, so I'm gonna have to think on those. There's a lot that you said there, and I think my takeaway is this world or the next, dating is sucks. So, sorry, guys, I'm not minimalizing anything you said, Alona, but I'm like, wow, way too much. Single's good. Okay, Sita, what do you want to say?
What book are you guys talking about?
Agreements.
Reading the 4 agreements right now.
4 agreements. And what have you already gone over?
We are on agreement number 3 right now, which is don't assume. We've already done be impeccable with your word, and we've already done don't take it personally. And now we're talking about assumptions.
Okay.
Sita, one of the things he says before the introduction is Toltec knowledge arises from the same essential unity of truth as all the sacred esoteric traditions found around the world. So what it was is, it's more reaffirmation of the mysticism and the fundamental parts of all the different religions around the world.
Well, I have trouble with that book, to tell you the truth. How about that? I did get it. I don't know if I read it all the way through, but just the opening sentences, to be impeccable with your word. I ask, does that give room for changing a person's mind? And what I have always tried to do, what I have pushed myself to do my entire adult life, probably all my life, is to be extremely authentic. And to be authentic, if I want to be authentic, have a conversation with somebody, I have to have clarity. There is no way to be completely authentic if there's confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, I have trouble. Like I said, we evolve. I have changed so much, and there is no way I will keep myself to the standards I had a long time ago. So I won't keep my word to things that I have said in the past, in other words. And the thing about I'm giving you a real quick on my 2-bit opinion of this, and taking things personally. I'm a drama queen. I'm very human. I'm very 3D. And I also reach out. I take absolutely everything personally. If I feel something, there is no way I'm going to try to deny that I'm not feeling it, or try to tell my mind to stop feeling it. If it's affecting me, I need to process why. If the person that's doing whatever, if I have reservations about that person, maybe I should be having reservations about that person. Or maybe I should be asking, what's that person feeling? What's that person needing? Can I help? Can I reach out to that person? So to me, not taking that personally is in the way I interpret that. In Mexican terms, we have a thing that we say, no te rajes. You heard that one, Mary Beth? No te rajes. And that means don't take it to your heart. Don't let it break you. Be strong. Keep going. Don't take it to your heart. But every time I hear that phrase, don't take it personally, I think about the gangster people, oh, don't take this personally, and the guy kills him, right? It's like, okay, I don't understand that term. The assumption thing, I 100% agree. I was on the spiritual path probably everywhere, all my life I was assuming. In my adult life, I was assuming. And so when I got on the spiritual path, I started becoming aware of what my mind was thinking. And I'm going, oh boy, that mind is very critical, is very judgmental, is full of a bunch of garbage. So I had to become aware of that. But I'll tell you, it took me 18 years. I have been on this path now for 29 years. How about that? But I remember writing down 18 years it took me to finally learn to stop assuming anything. I was introduced to this path a lot through taking a class that taught me how to do readings. And to do readings, you cannot assume anything. You have to listen to what the person is saying, and it could be the most outrageous thing. And you could say, well, logically, da 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 da, but you have to go into the crystal ball, into your intuition and go, okay, what's going on? You just can't assume absolutely anything. So I would apply that to my readings, but I didn't apply it necessarily to my life all the time. And it's because of all of the criticism and all the things that all of you have been saying. So I finally came to the conclusion for me, and I advise 2 steps to be on a truly spiritual path. Number 1, get a good night's sleep and get ready. And by getting ready, that means getting up in the morning, being prepared, have your morning breakfast, because it might be the only meal. Have your plan, have your goals. And then after you're ready, throw it all to the side, because who knows what you're going to end up doing today. And then I just try to apply that every single minute by, and of course I fail, but I still try to apply that every single minute. Do not assume what I'm going to do in 2 hours. Do not assume anything about this person or anything about anything. It's all basically in God's hands.
It's the big question mark, Sita. You start with the question mark and you end with it.
And
Sita, I love what you said because you're so brave to say it. I love it.
Sita, to the first agreement, which is being impeccable with your word, it evolves as you develop. So each sentence is incredibly simple, but there is a lot of depth to them.
Okay, good.
Every one of them. So as you begin to evolve in your own understanding, in your own practice, that first agreement morphs. It continues. I've learned this lesson so much so in the last few weeks since we started doing this. I was like, oh my God, now I'm at a different level with it.
Yeah.
So it absolutely evolves, and it's being impeccable with your word. There's so much depth. And I would say that I think Lisa has posted the videos. Go back and watch and you'll see all of our discussions, because you'll get an understanding of how much we've come to understand of each agreement, because those sentences are beautifully simplistic.
Yeah.
But there is incredible amount of depth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Marilyn.
It's interesting. I have a feeling this is probably true of all of us, but my dealings with Sita, we've had many, many conversations, and we're trying to sort out this thing, that thing, the relative that's doing whatever, it's making me crazy, whatever. And I have to say, Sita, it's so funny because you're probably one of the people that I find most impeccable with words ever, because it feels that your intention, and you've taught me, Sita decided that her goal in life is to love all of humanity. And that means when you're sorting something out, because somebody's being or whatever it is they're being, it's with compassion and love. And she's really taught me the languaging. When you want to say, I just, it's, understanding it's true. It's like what comes in when I channel, or what happens in a life review after one passes. They get to see the damage done. They get to see, and it doesn't mean that it has to be okay. And, I finally learned we don't have to be the whipping post for other people's growth. And, that might take a while. But it's so interesting just hearing you talk about the word and the fact that it changes, and the fact that, I know that, Idell knows me for what, 40 something years. I think I was telling the truth, but my truth had no idea who I was back then. And I hope she still likes me anyway. But who were we back then? That was our, we get what you're saying. We can be impeccable in our word, but we morph and we change as we grow. So it's really about the authenticity.
Isn't that the whole purpose of this journey? Is that we grow, that we learn from our mistakes, that we try to implement these agreements or these, these
that's why the agreement brings into it to your attention the judge and the victim. Because as you're evolving, it's not about judging. It's about coming from a kind, loving place, seeing your truth for what it is, but in a loving way. Not in a judgmental, critical, condemning way, which is how we've been taught.
Right.
You know what I finally learned through many years of pain with the same people that I was a willing participant. It's once you let go of it, once you let go and agree to no longer serve their purpose in whatever negative way they want, we have a right to take care of ourselves. And if it isn't good for us, it isn't good for them. And I realized, you know what? You can go do whatever you want to do somewhere else, but I will no longer provide the means for something that I know can't be good for you because it's not good for me. And it's about including ourselves in the equation with the words, which I was taught not to. I was taught to make an assumption what somebody else needs and not take into account what you might need. But you assume what they need and then you do it,
Yes.
Maria has been dying to say something, so.
Many things have come up, but in particular right now, just what struck me when Marilyn said that about taking care of ourselves, we have a right. I would even challenge that is our responsibility. That is us being true, impeccable with our word.
Yes.
When we are in conflict with people, it's because we're trying to get attachment, but that's an outward flow of energy attaching to the other. And if there is a conflict, yes, you need understanding, but the first step is coming back to yourself to understand yourself and where you're coming from, what's triggering in you to decipher that, because then you can stand in truth, your truth. And again, it's your truth for where you are at that moment in time in your journey.
Yeah.
So, and having compassion for where you are in your journey.
Yes.
It may be a different place than where you were 10 minutes ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, but that's the beauty of this life. And that's the one thing that I've come to appreciate is that all of these feelings, emotions, experiences, we can only experience while we're alive in these bodies here now. So it's all to be appreciated, even the difficult parts, because that's the opportunity we have to learn, be more aware, learn, grow, and evolve.
Yeah, it's the evolution. But Marilyn hit it right on the nail head there. It's about letting go to all of these constructs that we have created for ourselves. It's all of these darn attachments that we've created. And it's about letting those go so that we can free ourselves and have more of that freedom of being more authentic, being more impeccable with our word. Yeah. So there's a lot of depth to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you said, Alona. You were saying that too. I'm getting it. It's all coming together now for me. This is awesome. So, wow. Marie, it was such a short chapter, but I just feel like there's so much more to it.
Yeah, all of these, there is a lot to it. I mean, think about where we started when we first started reading the book and look at where we are at the third agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm absolutely, I know Sita said that, she didn't really care for the book, but I think how simple it is works for me really well. And it's very ideal. And, but I really think that the way the chapters progress, I can look back and keep pulling forward from the chapter before, from the chapter before, from the chapter before. So I'm getting a lot out of this book. I'm kind of impressed with myself. Yes, Lona.
With each chapter, you get safer and safer with yourself.
Uh,
You are safe with yourself. And Sita, you've created safety for yourself that works, right? When you're safe with yourself, then the world isn't a scary place anymore.
So what do you mean a chapter? The only thing that I saw were like 4 little pages.
We're going to order you a copy of the book, Sita. I'll bring it down.
There's a whole book to it.
There's a whole book.
It's a little book.
Look at all those pages.
Oh, no, I didn't read any of those pages.
No wonder you weren't impressed.
Lesson 1, Sita, read the pages.
Okay, there you go.
Well, Marie, is there anything you can tidy this all up for us, or we're just keep going, plugging away?
Yeah, we're going to move on to the next one, which is one of my favorites, because, anytime we do our best, it really is about us showing up. It's that transformation and action. It's the intention. It's the love. But just remember, these 4 agreements is part of the mastery of our transformation. And number 1, be impeccable with your word. It's a lifetime. I don't truly believe we will master it because it's constantly evolving. But will you get much, much better at it and very close to mastering? I think so.
Okay, I love it.
It's-
Yes, Marilyn.
Oh, just a thought, the doing your best thing. Sita hit on it in terms of the showing up. I really, between, Sita and my other pals and cancer, waking up is really something. And just, I've come to understand that I really worry about if I'm productive or channeling enough, and I've had to surrender to, we're just healing now. I'm not working, we're healing. That's our job right now. But it's a surrendering to exactly what Sita said, getting ready. I'm here, let me be your instrument of your healing.
And
I guess back to St. Francis, right? Let me be an instrument of your healing as you see fit.
Yeah.
That's my prayer every day. And I get used in ways that I can't imagine. In other ways, I just kind of sit like a lump. And, but I think, Sita, it's the preparation, it's setting the intention for whatever the best is, that the collaboration with however you look at your own higher consciousness, the divine consciousness, if you prepare for that collaboration, the best is in store, whether you're sitting taking a nap or whether you're out there, mentoring or whatever it is you do.
And Marilyn, the awakening is the very first step before going into the 4 agreements. That's the mastery of awakening. Just beginning to awaken, it's that first step so that you can begin to internalize the 4 agreements, which is the mastery of transformation. So yeah, this group is for sure way well into the process.
Oh, it's so much fun and it's free. You know what? I think what entices me about what Sita is saying about the preparation is it's about alignment. And for me, energy is the first language. It isn't about thinking, oh, what can I do too? We spend too much time making assumptions. Aligning to whatever it is that our higher self wants to bring us to and bring healing to is a sweet preparation that doesn't make an assumption about what it could possibly be. And it's really fun. It's mysterious and wonderful.
So Meryl, I'm just going to piggyback on that. It's not just thoughts. You have to align your beliefs, your feelings, your memories, and the physical cells of your body. When you align them in that kind of purity, that's when miracles happen, and they're made because we work at them. They don't just happen.
I agree, but I've come to realize that work is beautiful and not necessarily hard. The way that we were taught is hard. The allowing is the most joyful dance that's beyond the word work as we've been taught. You know what I mean?
It's
And
beautiful.
that's,
When
oh,
it happens, it's beautiful. It's uplifting. It's transcendent.
yep.
It's difficult. I would say it's more challenging than it is anything else. But just like everything else that we've done challenging, when you get there, victory is wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. And sometimes the victory is just being.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yes, Sita.
Well, my big awakening, I can say, it took years actually to totally wake up, and I'm still waking up. But I would say is the difference is to recognize, to realize that I'm on a spiritual path. I'm on a spiritual journey, and I always have been, even though I wasn't conscious of it. So once being conscious of that, then awakening just comes more and more and more. And when I made an agreement with myself then, like I said, I've always strived to be very authentic. So I strive to be authentic to myself. So once I put myself consciously on this path, then, and this is what I try to teach, then I do make assumption, this one assumption, that then God, angels, everybody knows that I have put the request out and that I am always ready to be downloaded. Okay? I'm just always ready. So when I'm not doing something, and sometimes, of course, I think that I should be doing something, I remember, aha, what I am doing now is I am gathering my power. That's what I'm really doing. That's what my soul is really doing. And that's when it's collaborating with my ego. I used to think that the ego and the soul were in a conspiracy. But with Marilyn and understanding all this more and more and more, I see, yes, it's truly a collaboration. So even if I answer somebody what my ego later thinks, oh, why did I answer that? Aha, my soul had a purpose. And so if I want to process why I did it, okay, but I can just assume that God knows what's up, put me there in that spot, and I blurted something stupid out of my mouth, and maybe it made somebody else think, maybe it made me think, whatever, but I know that my intention is always foremost to goodwill for everybody and everything. So if I put that forward, I have been training myself to depend on myself, that I am always getting that download, and I am always getting that power that I need within me, even when I'm not doing anything. So that's why I like the word authentic, because to me, it it reaches, it's more broad than being impeccable. I can't even say the word. With your word, to me, that means to be extremely honest. Isn't that what that means? To be impeccable with your word? Isn't that what that means? To be honest, extremely honest, not faking it, not being leading somebody on, not having a half truth. These half truths get us in big trouble. And that's where we can also go into assumptions when we get half truths. So anyway, I guess that's all.
That's interesting to go into what Sita is saying. Once we start to live that way, the half-truths or the inauthenticity, if it bubbles up in us and there's leftover, it's not comfortable anymore. And also people who are like that aren't really comfortable around us anymore, and we're not comfortable around them so much. You know, it's the vibe starts to shift, and it really does come down to exactly, Sita, what you said, the intention. You know, because every once in a while there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction where, you know, okay, my mother coming out of my mouth is okay, she's listening, but who knows what comes out of your mouth that you were taught sometime. But the intention's good. So it is really wonderful to be aware and be impeccable with your word. But to be as authentic in your intention and then allow your own humanity as we find our footing is kind, because it gives us some leeway to love ourselves a little bit and love others as we're all learning how to do it together. And it makes us more compassionate for the others who are trying to do it with us.
Okay. Alona, did you want to say one last thing before we call it a day?
I think it went out of my head.
I'm going to tell you, it didn't come into my head. So.
Oh, but you're reminding me of why I was wanted to finish that up with. When we jump on this conscious journey and we make a deal with ourselves, our higher selves, a deal with God, that we are going to be guided without doubt in everything that we're doing, I gotta say, that's when miracles just happen. And they just keep on happening over and over. And I am definitely living proof of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sita. I've got some work to do. So
I second the motion.
yeah.
As Smokey says.
Great conversation, guys, ladies. Wow, I have to take in a lot. Lona, I'm really going to think about everything, your story you told me. It's wow. I think that there was a collective what when you said about the motorcycle accident. All of us are like, what? It was like a cliffhanger there for a while. So thanks for sharing that with us today. And also thanks for the poems. Janet's left already, but thanks for our meditation. And thanks for the fantastic conversation, Marie, for leading us again.
Thank
Beautiful.
you. Ilona, I feel like Ilona's story needs to be a movie, because I could see that as a movie.
We'll screen here first, Ilona. Have a wonderful week and a beautiful day, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.